Hey guys, welcome back to Honey in the Rock. I'm Sophie, and this is Maddie.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here.
We had country music last semester together,
Oh, yeah.
but I don't really remember when we met before that. Like, I knew you.
Yeah.
She plays for my dad. She plays soccer at Furman. But, and I knew you all of last year because it was your freshman year. But I don't remember meeting you.
Yeah. No, I feel like the first time we had an actual conversation was, and I don't really remember when this was, but you were talking to me about how you were choosing between Anderson and Furman.
Yes.
And I was like, but I didn't want to tell you to come here because I was like, I don't know. You were like leaning towards Anderson.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, you'll end up where you need to end up. And she did.
Good. Well, I had my money down at Anderson.
Oh, seriously?
And a roommate. I was going to Anderson.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then the Lord was like, no.
Yeah, I'm glad.
And then I remember hearing stories about you. Like, did you do some sort of, at one time, like a campfire? And Jeremy was there?
Oh, yeah. Because him and Aiden would, cook steaks.
Yes.
Yeah, from, Walmart. Yeah.
Yes, so I did hear about that, too. And here we are now.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on.
Of course.
Okay, you can tell us a little about yourself, where you're from,
okay.
what year you, stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. My name's Maddie, like I said. I'm a sophomore from Birmingham, Alabama. I have two older brothers. Like Sophie said, I'm on the soccer team. And I'm pre-med, but applied math major.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I didn't know that you were the youngest of two boys.
Yeah.
That's what I am, too.
Yeah.
And it's so great.
Yeah, it's awesome being the youngest.
Yes.
Especially when you have two older brothers, right?
Yeah. People ask me, do you want a sister? I'm like, no.
No. I mean, sometimes I wish I had a younger brother.
Okay, that could be fun.
Yeah, but I like being the youngest.
Yeah, me too. And the only girl. So
yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But, okay, you can dive into your testimony.
Okay.
What did that look like growing up? Did you grow up in the church? When did you start pursuing the Lord?
Yeah. Okay, so I did grow up in the church. My mom is Catholic, so we grew up in the Catholic church. So for most of my life, I went to Sunday school, kind of learned about Jesus through that. But I think the first time I actually experienced Jesus was I went to this summer camp, my 6th grade summer.
Okay.
And they taught us how to pray and stuff like that. Yeah. And I just remember going to bed that the first night feeling like I had a new best friend that I could just talk to all the time. And I think from that point on, I started to try to pray at least every time I went to bed or something like that. Yeah. And I feel like that was the first time I really experienced a relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, that's really sweet. And then that was 6th grade.
Yes.
And then do you think that's when your life began to reflect following Jesus? Or what did that look like in high school?
Okay, yeah. I don't think it really began to reflect Jesus, honestly, until my freshman year of college. Okay. So high school, I was still following Jesus, I would say. But one thing I really lacked was community, which caused me to live a foot in both worlds almost. Yeah. Yeah.
Did that for when I was I was for a really long time, it was both. Yeah. I liked a little bit of the world. But then I also was I want my hell insurance. I don't want to go to hell.
Yeah, exactly.
But then also this is fun and my friends are doing this.
Yes.
And so what did that was that unfulfilling?
Yeah.
Did you know during the time that wasn't what it was? Or do you think it took time?
I think it took time for me. Okay. I think so living I think what I wanted to do was I wanted to fit in. Okay. And in my community around me, I didn't have a lot of close friends who were really pursuing the Lord. Okay. Which again, it's hard in high school when everyone just wants to fit in. Right. So I think that was something I knew I didn't have, but I also was well, I still want to have fun. These Christians seem like such serious people, all this stuff. And I didn't really realize it was a problem to be lukewarm in that aspect until my freshman year of college.
Okay, and then I want to hear about that.
Yeah, okay.
So coming to Furman, just tell that story.
Coming to Furman, I do think I would say I was still pursuing Jesus, and I definitely was praying a lot about finding community coming into Furman. Okay. But again, my intentions looking back were not there. Okay. Wanting to kind of experience the world and wanting to fit in, especially when you're coming onto a new team, you want people to like you. So I think when I started living for that, it wasn't as fulfilling, and I felt pretty empty on the inside. Yeah. And then, thank God that I found people who started to ask me to go to church and introduce me to FCA. Yeah. And I think it was through that community like that where I realized I don't want to live for the world. Right. It's not fulfilling.
Right. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that is something that everyone in any aspect of life, any time period, they're wanting to fit in. And especially, like, when you're going into a new season, it's
yeah.
Well, no one knows me. So technically, like, it doesn't really matter what happened in your past.
Exactly.
You can, like, choose whatever you want. But then it is so hard to, like, want to fit in.
Yeah.
And then, like, quickly, like, compromising on little things quickly become bigger things.
Yes.
And it's, like, a trail of just, like, spinning out of control. And so that's really sweet that it was, like, hey, come along.
Yeah.
And I think as believers, that's, like, also important for, like, the next people coming into a new season to be, like, who can I invite to church?
Exactly.
Because sometimes they just need somebody to tell them what to do.
Yeah. Especially because there's this stigma when you come into college that your experience is going to look like everyone else's, and you're going to go out on weekends and have fun, but it doesn't really fulfill everyone in the same way.
Right.
You know? Right. Yeah. And so it is kind of our duty to invite people to come along.
That, like, temporary satisfaction is something I've been learning a lot about recently, of, like, I'm finally getting things that I've wanted for so long, and then I'm like, oh, that didn't, like, provide the satisfaction that I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
And just realizing that it comes from Jesus only, and then that's where the joy comes.
Yes.
Like, it's not this, like, rule following, like, one thing at a time, but it really is, like, it can be so fun to follow the Lord, and especially in community.
It really can. And I think, like, this year especially, that is something that I've really noticed, and I just feel like once you really commit to the Lord, like, He does provide. And He provides in every aspect of your life, but like, I really started to see, like, the community He's given me, and I just feel really grateful for that.
I think I liked how you said you prayed for that, because I think that's something that, like, I need to work on too, being, like, thanking Him for the community He's given me, but also praying for community.
Yeah.
Because we need people.
Yeah,
to, like, work alongside of it.
Yeah.
That made me think of something else, and then I forgot it. But so I'll ask something different. What did soccer ever become, like, an idol to you?
Yeah.
Or, like, find your identity in that? And if it did, what did that look like? And then do you think it still is?
Yeah, so I think it definitely, I mean, growing up playing competitive soccer, it does become part of your identity, you know? Right. And I guess I think when you're having success at something, you don't see it as a problem because your identity is successful.
It's good, yeah.
So, like, why would you ever doubt that? And then just honestly with, like, recruitment and coming to college, it gets harder. Like, you're playing with better players, it's more competitive. And then realizing that, like, your identity isn't in soccer, and, like, I think recently I've really realized, like, our whole entire purpose is to glorify God in everything we do. And it can be the most, like, mundane task, like doing homework. Yeah. And it can be in, like, huge things like representing God on the field. Right. But it did take me a while to realize that, and it honestly took a lot of hard days and crying and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really sweet. That's kind of that, like, mundane, that word's such a weird word to say.
It kind of is.
Like, I'm not saying it right. Anyways, last week I was just, like, sitting and I was like, Lord, like, what are you trying to teach me right here? Like, He kept showing me these same things about love, and it was just like, I don't earn His love and His great love for me and all that. And I was like, that's really cool, but, like, is something else you're trying to show me in this? Because all I'm taking away from this is, like, about love, which is incredible and so important, and His love for us is actually, like, when I think about it, I'm like, whoa. Yeah. But something that kept coming up was that, like, in the ordinary days, how am I living? And now being, like, settled into the semester, and I know my schedule and I know what I'm doing, it's like, what does it look like to live intentionally on these days? And how easy I was just, like, get on my phone, walk into class, or coming back and just, like, scrolling all night long. Or at the beginning I was, like, intentional about trying to meet certain people, and then all of a sudden I'm just comfortable.
Yeah, it's easy to get into those rhythms.
And so I like that you said that, because and then I was, like, reminded of, like, my whole purpose is to glorify Him and make Him known, and that can happen in these ordinary days. And sometimes I think that it has to happen through big things or big service projects or camp or, like, something bigger, and just realizing it can happen in class, or smiling at the person sitting beside you, or, like, saying hi to somebody in the dining hall, and I was just like, oh, like, this is my purpose, instead of trying to make it some big thing in my head.
Yeah, it just takes a moment of being bold.
But
that's hard. I mean,
it is hard.
It is something, it's like practice, like, you just have to practice it.
Yeah.
And I'm working on that a lot, but
yeah, me too. And it's, like, awkward. I find it to be, like, really awkward at first, but then once you start going, it's like, okay, that was fine.
Right. It's just, like, the first time, like, I don't know. It's hard.
Sorry, I'm trying my best. So I like that you said that, just, like, the ordinary things.
Yeah.
And even, like, you practice, like, even, like, this is, like, this dumb analogy, but, like, even at, like, soccer practice, like, you show up, but then on those ordinary days of living intentionally is, like, where it comes out in a game. So then it was, like, reading my Bible and getting to work every day is this whole point. And one day I might get to share the gospel with somebody.
Exactly.
In each week. And so just like living intentionally and being aware of what the Lord is putting in front of me is something right now.
Yeah, and I think FCA, I think it was last week when we talked about integrity.
Yeah.
I think that hit me pretty hard because it's like, it's just like living, I was about to make up a word, integral. Living with integrity, like in everything you do. And like, I don't know, for me before, I kind of thought that just meant like rule following. Right. But it kind of means just like showing up in all those aspects of your life. Right. Yeah. And like just giving it your all for God. Yeah. Like whether it's practice, whether it's doing homework, right, talking to people, like just make it for Him.
That's good. Okay, so you grew up going to a Catholic church, but you don't go to a Catholic church now.
No, I do. I go to St. Mary's downtown. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, what does that like layout look like different?
Yeah. Okay. Catholic church is pretty traditional compared to a lot of like maybe like non-denominational. Right. I think since I've been surrounded by it all my life, I'm more used to it. But yeah. So I guess we have the Eucharist. Okay. So you receive that every time, and then there's like a choir. Okay. So in that way, it's like a lot more traditional. Right. Yeah. Okay. Those are the big things I'm thinking of.
I think what always was this like thing, like almost dividing, like when people are trying to like sort things into being like, I guess everyone's trying to divide and like choose a side. But then it's like really sweet to be like, no, I'm just following Jesus. Yeah. And it's not about so much about like the denomination and this. It's like about following who Jesus says He is in the Bible and believing in God's word. And so I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because we actually did a denominations topic for our Bible study. Robo did it. Yeah. And it was so interesting kind of just to learn about everyone's different practices. Yeah. And I think it's like, it's important to understand like what people believe in, but I mean, like you said, we all believe in Jesus, you know? Right. And I think I've also really enjoyed FCA for that reason because it's like just everyone coming together. It doesn't matter about like your denomination.
Right. And like denominations were created.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like it was like you're this, you're this, exactly. You're this.
It's not like God put them there, you know?
Right. And so just to like sometimes put those things aside and realize like what we're actually doing, and it's this biblical thing. Yeah. We're following who Jesus is. Yeah. Is it like calming almost? So I talked to Ellie Herman. Didn't she go to a Catholic church?
She does. We go together.
Okay. And so what was really interesting to me was like she was like, it's so peaceful.
Yeah.
And I think that's
interesting.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, that's interesting she described it like that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I guess I could see why she would think that. And I just think I really liked the tradition aspect of it. Okay. And I like doing the Eucharist every time. And yeah, I guess I find peace in that.
Yeah, that is cool. And I don't know what I was going to say about that. But then I have to work on like the line of not performing. And sometimes when I get so bogged down on like I need to do this, this, and this, and this, it feels like I'm trying to like earn something. And instead of doing these traditions out of like love in a way to worship. Yeah. And I think that's what I had to switch in my mind. Even like going to church, it was like, okay, I'm showing up to church, check. I read my Bible today, check. Exactly. I prayed this before I ate, check. Yeah. And almost doing it so like boom, 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 boom. Yeah. That it wasn't like out of this like love for Jesus in my heart. It was out of like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. And it's so easy to fall into that habit. And like you just don't even realize it. You know? Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. I didn't know you went to that church. Yeah. But I pass it all the time.
Okay. Is your church like down by there? Oh, okay.
But I drive there. This is so off topic. I drove there going to babysit. Okay. Like I drove past.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, and I've also definitely been to like some other churches, and I want to keep exploring because I think this is the time in your life where you should. Yeah. But yeah.
See what that is. Okay, and then now this year, what does pursuing the Lord look like? Since it kind of got turned around for you, and it was like it became a faithful thing. Yeah. Last year, did you do anything like intentionally different this year, or surround yourself with certain people? Like, what does that look like?
Okay, I think the beginning of this year was a big, like, just putting my identity only in Jesus. Yeah. Whether it be from school or soccer, like, putting my identity in Jesus and letting Him dictate the rest. Right. I think that was a big lesson of fall, and honestly, like, enjoying the community He's placed me in. But me and Aspen actually talked about this a bunch, like, enjoying that community, but also inviting more people in. Yeah. Like, not making it an exclusive thing. Right. Because we want everyone to be a believer, you know? Yeah. And then we talked about this, but, like, I think this semester, the Lord's really been teaching me about just finding like purpose in His will for me. Yeah. And kind of like I mean, we already said this, but like glorifying Him in everything we do, and being more bold. Which again, I'm working on a lot because I'm not good at it. But
that's really good. I like that. I get like comfortable with my people, and I have a hard time not wanting more people to come in, but almost wanting more people to come in because I know it's gonna change the dynamic.
Exactly. Yeah.
And literally last night, me and Emily were talking about like dynamics changing isn't always a bad thing.
It isn't. Yeah.
And it scares me a lot because I'm like, it seems bad in my head, but it really can be so cool.
Yeah.
And to get to love other people well and to experience like their gifts and who the Lord has created them to be. And that is something that's really sweet about Furman. I feel like they invite people in so well.
Yes.
Like I feel like I got invited into so many things with open arms. Yeah. Being like, why did you like just let me come sit on your couch like that? But just like what it looks like to invite people in.
And it's so cool. Like it's just so impromptu, you know?
Yes.
And like I know Furman is a small school, and that was actually a big worry of mine when I came here. But I feel like I'm just meeting so many new people all the time.
I know.
And like you said, people are just so inviting with like open arms.
Yeah. I was on a mission trip, I guess last year, and we were in the Dominican, and that was really interesting of them inviting us in. Like we would go door to door and knock, and they would just open their door and let us come in. Wow. And like, come sit on our couch. And I was like, nobody's gonna say yes. And I think like one person said no. Wow. And we would just, like, for hours, door to door to door. And some people, we would sit in their house for 3 hours, and some people would be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And they would just talk to us, and we would be like, can we tell you why we're here? And they're like, yeah, sure. It was a medical mission trip, which made it easy to come in because we were like, we actually like have a medical clinic. It's free. Can we tell you about it? And they're like, yeah, come in. And then be like, and the reason we're doing this is because we're the hands and feet of Jesus. Do you know who Jesus is? And then we could like share the gospel with them. And it was just like a crazy thing how they let us in.
Yeah.
And so I like try to work on that now, especially like living on a hall with so many people, just like letting people come in and not being like, oh, this is my like order, and this is this and this and this, and this is my group, and this is this, but just being like, what does it look like for me to invite people in?
And like not being so caught up in your own, like I think that's what happens to me sometimes. I get caught up in my own plans and all that, and it's just like, and this is so random, but I love like some apartments that they just keep the key in their door.
Yes.
It's like you're welcome anytime.
Yes.
Like probably not the safest thing.
Right.
But it's like, very hospitable. It's
I get the point. It's really kind.
Like the symbolism, it's there.
Right. But that really is so true. And that's like how Jesus is for us, like inviting us in.
Exactly.
And that's just kind of cool that we got there. Because that really is true. That's what Jesus does for us. Yeah. It's just like, come on in, the keys in the door.
And to think like so many times we just slam that door back in his face, you know? But it's the key's always in the door. Yeah. And that's just like,
that's really sweet. Yeah. And then that just seems like in the ordinary days or in the big days, just like opening the door.
Yeah.
And inviting him in because he's waiting there.
Yeah.
This is my last analogy. Somebody said it, I think Avery said it the other day. And she was saying it's like if your like friend got you flowers and put them on your desk, and you saw them and didn't say anything and just like went about your day and didn't even notice them.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that's like, how hurtful would that be for them? Like they're waiting in the corner like, surprise, I got those flowers for you, and you like say nothing, don't notice them. And she's like, that's kind of how it is for Jesus. Like he's right there waiting for us, and like little blessings every day, even in the hard days, like he's still there. And how many times we just walk right past him and ignore him, and being like, if we kind of think of like, oh, that probably hurt his feelings. It's like, oh, like, he was waiting for me to see that, and I just walked right past it because I was so busy, like, trying to get to the next place.
Right. Just so busy in our schedules.
Slow down.
Yeah, slow down.
Yeah.
Gosh. It's hard, but it's worth it.
I know. Well, this is so sweet.
Yeah.
I feel like we just went all over the place.
I know.
But I feel like I have a lot to reflect on now. Like, what does it look like for me to invite people in?
Yeah, exactly. And, like, what does it mean to, like, intentionally kind of open up your schedule for Jesus and for other people, I guess, too. But
that's good. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was so fun.
And thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.